Smash.
Smartphones are very interesting, but the thing is that when you look against other phones, like flagship phones or even mid-rangers, always prepaid phones always seem like they get overshadowed by all the big phones. Even this one, which I bought very recently. But the main thing is, I've had prepaid phones and I've had to use them regularly as my main phone, so we're gonna be taking a look at these two after I've upgraded so far to the future that these don't even compare.
Tonight the weekend, I don't wanna wait, I don't wanna wait, I don't wanna wait.
Now the two phones we will be talking about are the Blue View one and the Samsung Galaxy A01. Both of these being my regular hand phones, but also being my main cameras. The first thing which I will immediately say is that, yes, I know that I have many phones. In fact, I actually own an iPhone SE2, but also a Moto G stylus, which I bought recently for a video, but actually ended up enjoying it a lot better to where I'm actually taking my hand experience to experience it more. Please get ready for this next one. But these are both of the phones before I bought my iPhone SE2. So I guess I'm gonna look at them before I go into the next big one. Taking a look at the very first phone, this is the Blue View 1. My very first phone which I ever bought, ever. And how was my experience with it? Bearable. You'll see in a minute. This is the Samsung Galaxy A01, my second phone, and it's not a bad phone at all. In fact, I have to say that this was more bearable than my Blue View 1, although due to some issues a couple months later, this didn't last long either. I guess my phone was already unboxed. Now the Blue View 1, I have to really say, is very, very low end when it comes down to the actual phone itself. The Blue View 1 is like very, very low end. Like, so far to the point to where this just really surprised me to the point to where I look at this phone and I'm like, damn. As you can see, it's got a Barbie covered in back, and also it's very used. Yes, it is cracked too. I broke this phone too, so this was like very fun to have. It's got a back cover which you can remove and access the removable battery, but also put in a SD card and also a SIM card too. This has its original SIM card in it, so apparently 2500 milliamp hours. I didn't know if it was gonna turn on or not. I was waiting for that. Oh God. You probably can't see in the screen, but oh geez. This phone has so much dust between the glass and the display itself, so how did I even deal with that? I can't even deal with that on my freaking iPod. That's how bad it is. Wow. And it's got a hair on the screen too. Lovely. Ooh, jeez. Oh God, I just got some glass in my hand. Alright, apparently 7 p.m., so it's probably gonna start up Android. And I know the exact reason why this phone has dust and hair between the screen is because the glass is actually lifting. You probably can't even see it. Just like you can barely see the glass in it. But before moving on to this, let's get our other phone out of the way first. This thing is actually packaged. Although it isn't new either. It isn't new either, so it's not like it's a new phone. It's been a phone which I've had for years. Or not years, but like since 2022. I couldn't even get it out of this properly. Yes, this one is broken too, unfortunately. So I wonder if it's gonna boot. Oh, there we go. Just looking at this phone though against even my iPhone, it's weird to hold this again. Even after like years of not even using it. Let me grab my Moto. The weird thing is this is also track phone too. Really odd. This is my Moto, by the way, so this has a real hole punch and everything. It's got a nice finish and everything. This is just solid black plastic and glass. And also to give a size comparison, that's my, yeah. I forgot I had a passcode on this. Alright, starting up Android. Oh, jeez. Look at that I also forgot to mention that this is running Android 9, this is running Android 10, so these are kind of not too far from each other, but obviously this is running an older OS. It's also running either it's running its own skin of Android, but also, I mean, this one's running its own Android OS on Samsung. Also, this phone has apparently, like, oh, it had 70%, but you can't even see it because of the glass. Both of these phones were not bad phones at the time, but my experience when it came down to, first of all, the blue, I bought this back in 2020, and it was bearable, just bearable. It wasn't anything past that. This phone was like not that good when it came down to loading stuff, and the cameras themselves were awful. The video capabilities on the back-facing camera, if it just was slightly too dark, the phone would literally lose its frames. Like, it wouldn't, like, it was regularly 30 frames, it would go down to either 15 or 10 frames per second. So the first possibly analog product that you used to use whenever we were filming video was VHS. This thing had better low light capabilities on its back-facing camera, which, yeah, you could see the back-facing camera, and I'll explain this in a second. This one had better low light capabilities when it came down to, oh, this thing had better low light capabilities when it came down to its camera. It could do low video or low light video where it didn't lose frames. It was at 30 frames, of course, on its back-facing camera. I'm talking about back-facing cameras too. Apparently, I was subscribed to DankPod's Patreon back then. I'm gonna not drop this phone. The last thing I want to drop is my main phone or my secondary. Both of these phones were bearable. Both of them were just bearable. This one was like just bearable to literally the minimum bearable. If you were using this for calling or texting, it was fine. But anything past that, you were gonna struggle with it. And I mean, this was better. It was better for how it was, but this wasn't more than that. It was just like, it just wasn't that good. Also, these both have 16 gigabytes of storage in them. So both of these need a micro SD card if you're planning on downloading a lot of apps. If you're using them for calling or texting only, then you would be fine. But if you're using them anything more than that, don't even bother. It's weird to actually see this again. I mean, this is not, I don't really have any thoughts on this. This phone was not great. In fact, I mean, I actually used this also as an MP3 player before I got my very first iPod. So it's just weird to look at this again, even though I clearly know about both of these phones. Now, how did both of these break though? Both of these broke. Well, this one broke because I accidentally threw it on the floor while listening to a song. Yeah, I know, the wrong time to throw a phone is like, you throw your phone while you're listening to music, and then it breaks. Actually, funny thing is that I actually dropped this at Walmart face down and actually slammed it down once face down on a very thin carpet, and it didn't break that time. I mean, unfortunately, the glass is lifting up on this, so I'm surprised it didn't even break that time. Although, this one is an interesting story because it was actually a day before I even got my iPhone SE. I was having Wi-Fi issues. I got pissed off for the Wi-Fi issues. I went down to my driveway and threw the phone on the driveway. Even with its case on, it still managed to get a lot of damage, including cracks on the back camera to the point to where there was weird effects on the camera. I don't even know. It's why. Now, talking about the price of both of these phones, this was $30. I paid $30 for this phone from Dollar General, and it's fine, but I mean, it's fine, quote. But this one was $15. It was actually originally $60, but I ended up getting it at the perfect time. It was $15 for it. I mean, $15 is a good price for this phone. Also, both of these were prepaid, so yeah, you can see the boxes and everything. This is where I have to say that, I mean, this was just bearable. This one was okay, and then when I got my iPhone, this just seemed like it was a brick. I don't really have fond memories of using either of these. And yes, both of these were my main shooters when it came down to not only my photographs, but also video. This one sucked a ton. This one was okay, but I really wish that this was just better. But, I mean, it's fine. I wouldn't use it as my main phone, but yeah. I don't need to re-experience it again. But comparing this against this thing, this is a dream. This phone is a dream. This Moto is like a dream against what the Samsung and the Blue had. This is just so much better. Why can't phones be like this today? Even at cheap prices, this has got a 90 Hz display, 50 megapixel camera, USB-C and a headphone jack. It's also got 64 gigabytes of storage and also 4 gigabytes of RAM. Phones had to be like this. Just cheap-o-matic phones with awful displays and somehow just, I don't even know. This phone just is better. And so with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. I'll see you guys later when I talk about this Moto G stylus and see if it's better than an iPhone. Spoiler alert, it is better than an iPhone. Bye.